Good evening to another class in a series of classes that we're offering to parents on supporting parents in the 2020-2021 school year. This class will assist our parents in navigating the technology that will be used by their child and themselves in a hybrid or distance learning program. What we're calling for distance learning is EVA or Edina Virtual Academy. Today, what we do is hope to support our parents so that they get a little bit of understanding of how the technology is being used and some information around the technology and the role of technology in their program. But this is not just a one-way conversation. We would love to hear from you, and to help us, we have a link that we'd like you to submit any questions you may have. It should be on your screen right now. It's the http://bit.ly/PSPARENT20. Again, the EPSP needs to be capitalized. Let's get underway. My name is Steve Butner. I'm the Director of Media and Technology, and I'll be assisting tonight. And with me, I have a couple of awesome digital learning specialists as well that I'd like to give a moment for them to introduce themselves. Sean?
Hello, my name is Sean Beaverson, and I'm the Elementary Digital Learning Specialist for Edina Schools.
And Michael?
Hi, I'm Michael Walker, Secondary Digital Learning Specialist for Edina.
So let's go over what we're going to cover tonight. We'll talk a little bit about digital learning at Edina Public Schools. Edina Public Schools has a rich tradition of leveraging technology in their instruction. You may have seen your students using technology in the past. This year we'll be using it more with COVID and hybrid learning and distance learning. We'll specifically delve into the tools that you will be using and your child will be using this year to interact with their teacher. We'll discuss some of those communications tools and how they'll be used between your child and their teacher, the teacher and the child, and the teacher and you. What to expect in instruction and schedules, and give you some examples of schedules that you may see with your children's teachers. Where you can get support. And finally, with time permitting, question and answering period, and then also a conversation about how we can continue to support you going forward. Let's jump right in. The main tool that all our staff, students, and parents used is the Edina apps, and specifically what we call the portal. The portal is a single logon identity or website where everyone goes to log on to most of the systems in our ecosystem. The portal is accessed via a browser or a smartphone via a responsive design. That means that on a browser on a smartphone, you should be able to access the portal, or you can access it from any browser on any computer. And generally speaking, a parent's username is their last name, period, followed by their first name. Let's take a look at what it looks like for a parent. I'm at the portal right now. The URL for it is portal.edinaschools.org. We also have a shortcut link for the portal on the main Edina Public Schools website in the upper right-hand corner. So if you ever forget the URL, you can always go to our main website. In the upper right-hand corner, there'll be a link for portal that will get you to this page. Enter your username and password, which you should have received. And your password. And a series of icons will pop up on the portal. You'll notice that we don't use one application, but rather use many applications to provide tools that a parent or student or staff need. We like to call this best of breed of applications in education. And so we don't have one application, we have a number of applications. Let me go over those quickly. For our secondary students and teachers and parents, we use Schoology. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Infinite Campus is our SIS, or Student Information System. That's what we like to call the application of permanent record. That's where your transcripts for your children are located, schedules, absences, lunch balances, paying for meal services, transportation information, where you update your information about contact information such as telephone numbers and email addresses. Since this spring, we've also added an icon for our tech status. Though we don't have outages in technology, occasionally we do. And if we do have an outage, we will post it in our tech status. People know. Learner's Edge is an application that we've developed, which is a dashboard for parents and students to be able to see a historical record of their child's academic progress in Edina Public Schools. So it's a multi-year look at your child's history. It has its assessment information, grades, and then increasingly other information that will help that student be successful. We know that it's confusing between when to use Campus and Schoology, so we've developed an FAQ to help parents understand when you use Schoology and when you use Campus. The MyInfo update, which was where you updated your contact information and made the instructional decision for your child this year. And then recently added is the instructional dashboard, which I'll talk more later on in this presentation. I want to bring your attention to the upper right-hand corner where you can reset your password. And so we give you a default password and we encourage you to reset your password to something that you'll know and remember, and or set a recovery email. What that is a tool that you can use to, if you forget your password, to click on a link and have a link sent to you to reset your password. For that to work, though, you need to enter an email address in the set recovery email. We don't automatically put email addresses in there. You need to put it in. Once an email is in the system and stored, if you do forget your password, again, on our website, you can click on the Forgot Password link, and it will provide you information on how to reset your password. Again, here are the icons that a parent will see. And I just want to point out that your child will see additional icons. It's really important that as you start using the tool and working with your child to support them this year, that you use your username and password. The reason for that is many of these applications are user-specific, which means that for a student, they gain different access and have different applications as opposed to a parent. And so if you log on as your child, you're not going to see all the information that you need to see. And if your child logs on with your username and password, they're not going to be able to access all the applications that they need. So please make sure that you log on using your username and password. Our key learning tools for our students are Seesaw, which is a learning management system, second grade, Schoology, which is a learning management system we use grades 3 through 12. And then for communication and collaboration, we use Google and Google Meets. Let's dive into a learning management system, or LMS. What is it? What is it used for? An LMS is used as a virtual classroom into your child's class, or a window into your child's class. It allows you to see certain information digitally and be able to assist your child to understand what's due, get information from your teacher, and be able to help assist your child in their learning. For students in grades kindergarten through second grade, that application is Seesaw, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And for students grades 3 through 5, and then in middle school and high school, it's Schoology. Remember, both these applications can be accessed via a browser or an app. They have single sign-on, so you can log in using the portal. And make sure you sign up for announcements, which we'll show you how to do in a moment. Another important tool this fall is Google Meet. That's our video conferencing application. And we use that tool because it fits very well in our ecosystem of Edina apps. Your students with their usernames and passwords can easily join video conferencing sessions with their teachers. They can access these Google Meets quickly from their username and password and from their dashboard. It also can be accessed from any computer, and it has an Android and iOS app. But again, a child needs to be logged on with their Edina app's username and password. As parents, you can also see, you may from time to time get asked to join a Google Meet, and the flexibility of Google Meets allows you to access that from a computer, a smartphone, or by dialing in on a telephone number so that you can join a conference audio via audio. That's very helpful if you need to conference with your teacher and they send you a Google Meet and you might not be in front of a computer. You can still have a conversation with your teacher. We ask that you practice good digital etiquette with your child when they're joining a video conference. Things like muting their microphone and turning off their video when they enter a video conference, and then determining when they want to turn that video on by pressing the buttons to turn it on. We've provided a link here that has additional instructions. And this whole presentation will be available online in that instructional dashboard that we'll talk about in a moment. I'll now turn it over to Sean, who can talk about some communications and what to expect.
Thank you, Steve. So we are working from this particular schedule, and so you can see on Monday and Tuesday and Thursday and Friday will be active learning days in which the students will interact with their teachers on a regular basis in the EVA model. This will be through a combination of live video meets, so connecting through Google Meet, and some asynchronous or independent learning. On Wednesday is reserved for independent learning and time with specialists. On Wednesday, our teachers are working together to review the work that students have done, to do planning, and to continue their own learning as we prepare for this school year. So you can see here is a little more detail about student learning expectations and then what the process might look like. So our school day in EVA will start at the same time that your homeschool day begins. So Normandale is at 8:40. All our other schools begin at 7:50. You can anticipate having combination of meets and independent work from 8:40 to 3:15 p.m. or 7:50 a.m. to 2:25. The instructional methods will use a combination of live connections and independent work through a variety of different materials that I will cover a little bit more as we talk about the learning management systems. Each day, kids will have a scheduled Google Meet in the morning to meet with their teacher and to learn about what the day holds and what the schedule for the day is. We'll be having literacy workshops and math workshops during EVA, including social studies and science, and also access to our specialists so that all students can enjoy what they normally would if they were in school. And now getting a little bit closer, you can see this is an example of a teacher sample daily schedule. And what you note here is that it is similar to what you would experience in school. The day is broken down into small chunks of time that are designed for different learning activities. We are saying that there are really 3 learning settings that all children will experience. The in-person sessions, those are short, sustained moments of attention from the student and cooperation with the class. This is when they will connect live with their teacher through Google Meet. Independent sessions that'll have support resources available in the learning management systems and will be anchored in the in-person sessions. So topics and concepts will be explained by the teacher in person. And then there will be opportunities for small group sessions as well. We have the ability to have students join each other through a Google Meet. So we will continue to develop ways for students to work together and cooperate much like they would in a regular school year. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the learning management systems that we have available for EVA. In kindergarten and second grade, our students and teachers will use Seesaw, and you will too, our families will as well. There is a distinction to be made in Seesaw, so I'm going to go over this. There are actually two separate apps for Seesaw. We are providing iPads for all students K through 2, and on that iPad, the class app for Seesaw is already installed. You cannot add other applications to the iPad that is provided by the district. This is due to agreements with software companies and data privacy and other things that we like to control or have a need to control. Students will receive a QR code if they haven't already. That is the home learning link. This creates a private connection between the student and the teacher so that the student's work remains between just the student and the teacher. The teacher may decide at times to highlight student work to show off examples and exemplars, in which case they'll be made available to the other students and to families. The family app is the app that parents download onto their own device. And so there's an app on for both iOS and Android. And you can also access Seesaw through the web browser. You will receive a QR code and a login information from your teacher for the family app as well. It can be a little bit confusing, but as we grow through this, once we get it set, it will be all set and will be taken care of. And now we get a little bit further in the details. So what might my students see in Seesaw? Here's an example from a kindergarten class that has activities already set up for the students to do that are helping the students learn about the platform Seesaw. So if you look on the left-hand side, you can see the activity that the student will complete with directions from the teacher and including voice directions, so a recorded set of directions. And the student simply clicks the green Add a Response button, and they can begin responding to the prompts in that activity. You'll note on the right side of the screen that the activities notifications has a number 6. That means there are 6 activities waiting to be attended to from the student. There is also filters for to do, in progress, and done. When a student begins an activity, it switches to in progress, and the student can save a draft by tapping the draft button, or they can submit it by tapping the submit button, which I'll cover in the next screen. I want you to also notice that there is an inbox on the right-hand side, and so this is how teachers can communicate with students and with families using the built-in tools in Seesaw. So it is a good idea to download and log in to the family app so that you have access to that inbox as well. The teachers can send messages to students and family, so they will use that tool to stay in touch and communicate what is going on. And now we'll look at what an activity actually looks like. So this is actually taken from that very first activity. I've added the annotation so that you can see where the instructions are. So at the top of the screen, there is the instructions that we saw in the last one are available to the students. The creation tools on the left-hand side make it easy for students to submit their work. They have the ability to record their voice. So before they're prepared to type or as they're developing their writing skills, they can actually record audio and video submissions and take pictures. Below that, you can see that there is actually a video included in this particular activity for the students to help them even further understand what they're supposed to do. And then below that are the other creation tools, the pencil, the marker. Your kids will have a lot of fun with that. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see the draft button I mentioned. And if the kids tap that draft button, it will save their work. And then they can come back and work on it again. And then the green check mark is to submit for the teacher. Students starting in third grade will be using Schoology. This is a view of the Schoology course that students would experience. So you can see as a student logs in that they will see 1 or 2 folders, perhaps 3, but they will have a homeroom folder and then a specialist folder available for them. In the homeroom folder will be another set of folders that are divided by content area to help keep things organized. On the right-hand side, you can see the upcoming events that are automatically generated whenever a teacher creates a due date or an entry on the calendar. So you can see in this case, the teacher has already highlighted some birthdays to celebrate in the upcoming month. The content folders are where the different activities and resources will be stored. So you can go to the next slide. And now we can see what an assignment might look like. So you'll note here at the top of the screen, there is a set of instructions for the students to follow. And then there are a list of resources. So there are links that provide background information for the students. In this case, there's also a video tutorial included, a quick assessment or quiz. And in many times, these quizzes are self-grading so that the student gets immediate feedback, which is particularly helpful if they're working independent. And then I like to highlight that in many cases, teachers will use a forum to provide a space for students to post questions and to answer each other's questions. This is a similar view to what you would see as a parent when you log into Schoology as well. You can't see the submissions to the discussion. There is a certain degree of privacy, but anything that your student is seeing, you can review and see as well.
Thanks, Sean, for that background and the instructional tools. For what instruction will look like and what content will be taught and what does it look like in EVA or hybrid, we've put together the Edina Public Schools Family Dashboard. It's a great one-stop shop for parents to get that type of information. Let's take a look at it now. Again, that dashboard can be accessed right from the portal. And when you open it up, it looks like this. We start off with the academics, information about Early Learning Center, elementary, middle school, and high school, and then additional information that is pertinent to the 2020-2021 school year, especially around COVID and around safe practices the district has put in place. Items such as additional information about the learning models. What is the difference between hybrid? What's the difference between EVA or distance learning? Some of the additional information about our safe learning practice that we're putting in place, such as social distancing, wearing a mask, cleaning, ventilation, that we're using to ensure that your child, our staff, and everyone is safe while they're in our school and our care. What do we do for COVID monitoring and detection, which is generally governed by the Minnesota Department of Health or the CDC? Information about transportation, nutrition services, links with mental health and wellness, activities in athletics, and an FAQ. We also have a link here for technology, and I'll go into some detail about that in a moment. I do want to bring your attention to the tab for elementary academics. Here you'll get additional information on the instructional models and the plan of content that will be delivered this school year. I want to direct your attention to an important item that we're asking all parents to do with their children, and that is to make sure you do the COVID self-screening every day to ensure that your child is safe and other children that are in Edina Public Schools are safe. Here you'll find additional information about the hybrid and EVA model. This week's schedule, which you should know, and as Sean talked about, the cohorts of A groups and B groups, and then what the schedule will look like going forward, and other logistics around hybrid and EVA. Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about Schoology and notifications?
Yes. So for parents in grades 3 through 5 in Schoology, you can actually get notifications sent to your email so that when teachers are posting things, it'll come to your email. You can even set up your phone for some of these notifications. When you sign into the portal as a parent using your last name, first name, you'll see at the top of the screen when you first sign in that your name is at the top. If you were taking some community ed classes or things like that, you might actually have classes. But right now, you're just seeing an announcement that was sent out earlier this week. If you click on your name and go down to settings, this is where you'll find the notifications tab that will allow you to set up which emails you would like to receive. Maybe if your child's teacher is posting an update to the class, you'd like to get that email, you can turn that first link on. Other things, you can get pretty granular with what you select here. You may also want to make sure that you're getting updates. If a school posts an update in Schoology, that can be found down near the bottom here, as Steve is demonstrating. So that covers some of the notifications you can get. Also note that when teachers are sending messages to everyone in the class, it's also going to parents, and you may see those emails coming as well. Now, if you would like to get a digest of what happened that week in school or what happened that day in school, you can select any one of your students. So in this case, Minnie has 3 students in the district, children, but if you just select one of them, now when you click on that down arrow and go to settings, you get a different view. And in this view, when you click on notifications, this is where you can sign up for that weekly or daily digest. So you can first turn it on, and then you get the option of whether you want a daily digest, every day you want to know what's happening, or just weekly, what's happened that week. So you might see assignments that were completed or maybe missing. You can also at the bottom turn on so that if an assignment does not get turned in on a given time, you would get an email notification of that if you want to keep track of that. Many of our parents choose to set a weekly digest set to maybe Friday afternoon. So if students have an interest in maybe doing something over the weekend, you can check and make sure that they have their work completed before they might do that. Now, Steve, if you go back to, so Steve has just clicked on the calendar, which also shows in Schoology for, in this case, Marvin as the child, what things are coming up for them in that upcoming. The other thing I wanted to point out is if we go back to Marvin's view here in courses and just select any class. So here you can see the course material. If there was any upcoming work, you'd see that. You also may see some peek at the week type things. Clicking on Edina Public Schools, Steve, in the upper left. This is that initial view a parent gets. And up at the top, it may initially say student activity. But if you click on enrollments, that will also show you, and especially for secondary, where we have, some of you may have secondary students, and that's our official grade book. So you may see the current grade in the class, and you can go into more detail with that. At elementary, we're not using that as our official grade book. There's other ways that elementary teachers are measuring progress. And so don't feel like if you may see some grades in the Schoology grade book at elementary, but don't assume that that is the current progress of your child.
Mike, I think that's an important distinction for our elementary families, that the gradebook in Schoology will be used as a record-keeping device for our teachers and for your students, but it does not equal what will be in the report card at the end of the term. So be sure to communicate with your teacher if you have questions about progress, but please don't panic if you see zeros or missing items. That is part of the record-keeping that Schoology offers.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Sean. So, as we mentioned, technology will be used by your child, and it will be monitored by you. And we know that with technology, there's issues with technology, and you may have additional questions. We're here to help. The Department of Media and Technology and your media specialists will be always a one-stop shop for you to be able to get assistance around technology and answer questions. In DMTS, or this department, we actually have 2 additional ways to get information. One is through a telephone number, 952-848-4915, which is our help desk. We have someone on duty from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. It's where you can call if you have a question about technology or if you have an issue with some of the systems. Please note that we might not be able to answer all the questions right away, but we will assign the ticket to someone to get back to you and provide you an answer to your questions. We also have a help desk ticketing system, which is start by an email, and that email is support@edinaschools.org. So again, if you prefer to use email to ask a question, or if you have an issue, you can use that. And you might be directed to use the email system if we need to start collecting information because we want to solve a problem. So please be aware that sometimes telephone calls or help might start as a phone call, but then we might ask you to switch over to the email ticketing system so that we can track issues and get information we need to solve your problem in a timely manner. Parents, if you have issues with your username and password with Edina apps, we encourage you to email parentportal@edinaschools.org. As Sean mentioned, your child has access to a device. K through 2, it will be an iPad, and 3rd through 5th grade, it will be a Chromebook. And we know that sometimes those might have issues with them or technical issues. And again, our support numbers will help you with that, but occasionally we're going to have that device brought in for repair. Our repair process is very simple. Again, what we do is ask you to do some troubleshooting, and then we initiate a repair process through the support@edinaschools.org. If you could please include your child's name, the school the child's attending, and then a student number if you know that. That'll get us started, and we'll figure out what's wrong with your device. In some situations, we'll need to swap that device out. In those situations, what we do is we either have you come to the Edina Community Center or go to your parent school for your child to get a loaner device that your child can keep using. When what we do is we take that device, we look at it. If it needs to be sent out for repair, we initiate the repair on it. If the repair is due to neglect, there is a $30 repair fee that is associated to the child and put into campus. But generally that doesn't happen, and we're sure that all your children will treat their devices very well. And we've had very little issues around technology. We do ask that your child has that device charged every day because they will use those devices most of the day, and that they keep them stored and keep them safe. Additional information around technology and technology support can be found at that dashboard page under the icon for technology. Well, we reached the end of where we're talking, and we'd like to hear from you. And so let's see if we've had any questions submitted. Mike?
Yes, we've had a few questions. Oops, sorry. Making sure I'm unmuted. Thanks. The first question is from a Countryside parent. One student submitted an assignment in Schoology. It no longer appears in the upcoming assignments list. Can I see my student's assignment?
Sean, do you want to take that one?
Sure. The answer is you can see the assignment. You need to navigate to the grade book. And when you click on the grade book for that particular submission, you can review the submission. Great.
The second question is from a Cornelia parent. How much live and how much recorded interactive lessons are there?
That's a really great question, and it's one of those things that really is going to be developed as we experience this year. What we can guarantee is that every day in the EVA program, your child will have an opportunity to meet with their teachers on multiple occasions. Depending upon the age level, those occasions may be short or they may be more extended. But there will be a mix of live meetings using Google Meet and submitted materials, support materials for independent work.
Steve, here's one for you. Can students change their portal password?
Generally, we don't. The student can change their portal password. What we do is, if they want to go up to the right-hand corner, they can change it, or they can submit a help desk ticket and we'll change it. That's something that when the child reaches third grade, we actually encourage them to do. And again, in middle school, we ask them to change it once a year. But they can change their password. What that is, though, is a two-edged sword in that once we don't know their password, media specialists can't assist those students with issues and problem solving. But if the child wants to change their password, they can.
So I just want to highlight what Steve had mentioned. Our media specialists regularly will check in by logging in as your kid in order to troubleshoot. And so if your child is experiencing something peculiar on the Chromebook, our media specialists may log in as the child to see if they can recreate it in order to help provide support. So just a quick tip on getting support that is pretty helpful for us.
Right. The next question is about the Seesaw QR code. On the Edina Apps portal account handout, the given QR code isn't working. How do we create the family account for Seesaw?
That's a good question. And the paper handouts that you received have two QR codes on it. One QR code is actually for our Edina portal to help the students sign into the portal. And then the other is the home learning link for Seesaw. And so the other QR code that you were given, the Seesaw QR code, is actually used in the class app, not the family app. Teachers will be emailing you separately the QR code for the family app. And so the piece of paper that you have that has two QR codes on it are both student-facing QR codes. Again, one is for the portal and the other is for the Seesaw app. Now, we've had a lot of roster changes as we've been getting prepared for this year. And so if your QR code no longer works, you can email the help desk at support@Edina Public Schools, and we'll work with your teacher or with you to make sure that you get an updated QR code.
Yeah, just to be clear, it's support@edinaschools.org. Okay, the next question. For her iPad, should I create an Apple ID for my first grader or just use mine?
So our iPads are all managed from the district level. And so you don't actually need an Apple ID for your child. We have the accounts set up through our district. We use a service that allows us to deliver apps remotely, regardless of where the iPad is. And so we actually take care of that on behalf of your child. And there's a number of reasons. The biggest is the security. We make sure to review the apps that we allow on our iPads to make sure that they are compliant with federal laws around student privacy and data.
Right. The next question is from a countryside parent. Is there a way to have Gmail populate in Schoology so that kids don't have to leave Schoology to access their email? This proved to be a sticking point last spring. My son missed messages from his teacher because the tools were not integrated.
And that is a great question. Hopefully, what we will be experiencing, particularly in EVA, is teachers will use the message center built into Schoology first and Gmail for just occasional messages. We will work with teachers to help them to understand the differences between the two. Actually, they already do understand the difference between those two, but we will certainly reaffirm the approach of using the Schoology message center first. And then when there is a Gmail waiting for the student, to make sure that the students have some notification in Schoology to help them go check that Gmail. So they don't integrate perfectly, but the good news is once they're signed into the portal, they can get into that Gmail without logging into a new account, and they should be able to get into Schoology using that same account.
And the other piece of that is that anytime a teacher does send a message to a student in Schoology, it also actually generates an email to their Gmail account as well.
Or their Edina Apps account.
Right.
Yeah. And so it could be just a good regular practice to check that email account, which is, Steve makes an important distinction there. We do use Google, but we have our Google for Education service. And so it is an Edina Apps email account. And it is something it's a good habit to get into. So check there and you have double coverage for messages from your teachers.
Right. And the last thing is, I think we've covered it. It was about receiving those 2 sheets for 2 different QR codes. Again, I believe Sean said that one is for the portal and the other is for Seesaw. And then eventually you are going to be getting an email with the parent QR code for Seesaw. Correct, Sean?
Yep. So one of the things that we just recognize is that we still are having some roster changes and some other things. And so you can anticipate getting an email from your teacher before school starts on Monday.
Sounds good. I think that pretty much covers it.
Thanks, Mike. Any final comments, Sean?
Just a reminder that we recognize the peculiarity of this particular school year. It's not how we would design the start of a school year. We prefer to have everybody together in our schools. And so as an acknowledgement of that, we just would like you to use and rely on our support systems in order to help you get going. So if you're having trouble with that QR code, don't feel frustrated about it. Either create a support ticket at support@edinaschools.org, or feel free to contact your teacher, and your media specialist is another really wonderful resource for you as well.
I couldn't have said it better, Sean. Well, thank you all for joining. This video will be posted in YouTube and then also posted on the dashboard as well as the slide deck. I hope this presentation was informative for everyone, and we look forward to seeing your children throughout the year. Thanks and have a great night.